Did you ever hear 55,000 umpires in the stand?
You get to a spot like this, you just sit back and watch. 2 out, 2 on, 1 and 2 the count. 4-1 Dodgers, 9th inning. Strike 3 call. Fastball got him looking. So Fernando gets the win. Niedenfuer gets the save as he strikes out 2.
The lineup for today is leading off and playing second base, Steve Sachs. Batting second and playing first base is Greg Brock. Batting in the third position and playing left field, Dusty Baker. Hitting fourth and playing third base, Pete Guerrero. Batting in the fifth spot and playing center field, Kenny Landreau. Batting sixth and playing right field, Mike Marshall. Batting seventh and playing shortstop, the veteran, the Dean, Billy Russell. Batting in the eighth spot and doing the catching, Jack Fimple. And the pitcher for today, the right-handed fireballer, Bobby Welch. Thank you.
Here's the way the Phillies will line up on defense. Matthews remains in left field. They give up some defense with Gross in center field, replacing Maddox. And in right field is LaFay, but those two fellas are in there because of their bat. Mike Schmidt will be at third base. DeJesus, and he'll be a little more sure of himself with the artificial surface. He's a shortstop. Joe Morgan will be at second base. Pete Rose is at first base. Bo Diaz is the catcher, and Charlie Hudson is the pitcher.
The Philadelphia Phillies taking the field here at Veterans Stadium. And again, we point out 2 things. First of all, it is not a full house. And secondly, the delay of game. It will take place a couple of minutes from now. However, it was originally to start sometime after 3 p.m. But we had an unfortunate tragedy nearby the ballpark when an oil tanker truck turned over, as we explained at the start of the show. Charlie Hudson. He's a kid who is 0-2. In fact, he made his major league debut the end of May against the Dodgers, and the Dodgers beat him in Dodger Stadium 4-1. He had somewhat of a roller coaster year, even though he's 8-8. Give you an idea, his first 10 starts, he won 2 and lost 3. Then, the end of July through the first week in August, he was red hot. He won 5 straight. And then from August 13th to the end of the season, he won only 1 game in 11 starts. He went 1-5, so you put it all together, and you wind up 8-8. Probably his best game on the 20th of July, he had a no-hitter with 1 out in the 9th inning. And Houston's Craig Reynolds blooped a single to center. He finished with a 3-hitter, 10-3, and he took the win. And basically, he is a simple, orthodox pitcher, huh, Joe?
That he is. You're watching him throw his curveball, but his fastball is his best pitch. He throws a cut fastball. He has 2 or 3 variations, according to his pitching coach, Claude Osteen. And the cut fastball is just that he throws it a bit off center, and hopefully in this game we'll show you exactly what they mean when they talk about a cut fastball. He throws it very hard, and it'll be a pitch that'll eat you up if he gets it in the right spot. I think that cut fastball really started with Johnny Sane, and I think Mudcat Grant got the most publicity when he was winning because that's what he was throwing. This kid, what they talk about more than anything, though, I think, Vin, is his temperament. They say he'll have the butterflies, but they'll not affect his arm, and his coach says he can smile. He'll lose the game, and he'll feel badly, but he can leave it here and come back the next day. So here we go.
Well, 24-year-old Charlie Hudson will be pitching to Steve Sachs, Greg Brock, and Dusty Baker. A year ago, Hudson was in his home in Dallas watching the championship series on TV. In fact, he said, I didn't expect to reach the big leagues until 1984. And here he is going up against Sachs. Sachs in his sophomore year had a big year, and so far he has enjoyed a reasonably good championship series. 3 for 7 with the bat, although you remember in the first game, after a base hit, he was picked off at first base.
And he already said, if I get on, I'm going.
So Sachs opening it up. He had 281 during the regular year, and of course he had 56 stolen bases, and that's ball 1. Crowd finding it very difficult to get into the stadium, so we are far from a sellout. Strike. 1-1. The count of Steve Sachs. And you can see the empty seats, although many of the tickets have been sold for those seats. It's extremely difficult to get here. One of the main arteries completely blocked until at least 10 p.m. tonight. High pop fly into shallow right center field. Coming in and calling all the way is LeFay. One away. Joe, it looks like, at least at the start of the game, we're going to have one of those shadow sunlight games.
I started to just bring that up. It's not so much the shadows as it is the reflection too, Vin, because you can see the lattice work across the mound. That's going to be distracting, but when it gets beyond and everybody's in the shade, it will help some, but it's looking out in the center field, that reflection, that's what really makes it a problem.
You know, every now and then a manager has to go with a hunch. And Lasorda's hunch is that this youngster, Greg Brock, will do something rather dramatic. He is 0 for 5 in the league championship series. Remember, he had 20 home runs during the regular year with 66 runs batted in, and he fouls that back. And the count 0-1.
It's a high sky today, so these outfielders and infielders on the pop fly, they might have some problems because they don't have those little white clouds, those little angels that they talk about helping you out.
There's an idea of that sky. It's about as high as it can get. 0-1, the count to Greg Brock. Good fastball, lifted foul off third. Mike Schmidt fighting the sun, now goes into the shade, leans in. And did he come up with it or not? Yes, he did. He was fighting the fan for it. And the fan said, give it to me. Mike said, I fought too hard to get it. Now you can have it.
Here's another look at that play, and you can see Mike fighting the sun, looking to see exactly where he was. He knows he has to reach in. Now watch the fan try to make the catch. Mike with the glove makes it. And they're showing it on the big scoreboard out here in center field. Now he'll visit with him, and then he gives him the ball. The fan has a perfect right to that ball because it's in the stands. He did not reach onto the playing field. You would think with the home crowd he would help his player, but he wanted that souvenir and he did end up with it, but he does have a right to it.
Well, and the box seat is just beyond the Dodger dugout, so maybe it was somebody from far away like Delaware. Now, with 2 out in the first inning, here's Dusty Baker. Baker 1 for 7 in the league championship series.
I'll tell you where it was an experience, Vin, was to go there as a Cardinal player in Ebbets Field and reach in there.
Yeah, you're lucky to come back with your hands.
Oh, your glove was gone.
1-1 to count to Baker. Ball 2, 2-1. Game 3 of the National League Championship Series between the Phillies and the Dodgers. So contrary to the writers, East and West meet, at least in baseball. High slicing fly ball to right. LeFay digging, still coming, and can't get it. The ball bouncing up into the seats for the ground rule double.
There's a great example of what the ball will do when it hits that artificial surface. Once he missed it, LeFay gives it a try. Now watch the bounce on this ball. I mean, it just went straight up and into the seats for the ground rule double. So you can see the infielders playing back, and outfielders have to be careful of the ball when it hits that surface.
And it probably deprived Dusty Baker of the additional base, because with LeFay on his numbers, he figured to go to third on that ball, except it bounced into the stand. So now let's see. Pedro Guerrero 1 for 5. Remember the 2-run triple the other night. He's also been on base 3 times by walking twice and hit by a pitch. And he slices one high, twisting down the right field line and foul ground and back into the seats out of play. Pedro's in pursuit. 0-1 to count. Guerrero does not walk very much. He had only 3 intentional walks in 1980 and 81. And, of course, now they really handle him with care. The last 2 years, he's had 28 intentional walks. And then, of course, there's that category, the intentional or the unintentional intentional walk, where they just won't give you a strike. 1-1. And he was a little bit late on that.
And it was also out of the strike zone. So Guerrero's looking to knock in that run. He knows how important it is to put the crooked numbers on the scoreboard first. And that was not a strike, but he wasn't about to be that particular.
Charlie Hudson strikes out Guerrero, leaving Dusty Baker at second base. And at the end of half an inning, the Dodgers no runs, 1 hit, a man left. And the Philadelphia Phillies coming up, Morgan, Rose, and Schmidt. Here's the Philadelphia Philly lineup. Joe Morgan leading off at second base, followed by his buddy Pete Rose at first base, and the big guy Mike Schmidt at third. Joe LaFay will be in the cleanup spot in right field, followed by Gary Matthews in left field. Greg Gross with his left-handed bat replacing Gary Maddox in center field. Bo Diaz will be the catcher, Ivan DeJesus the shortstop, and Charlie Hudson on the mound. The pitcher going head-to-head against that lineup is Bob Welch. He is 1-0 in the playoffs. His playoff victory came here in 1978. He went 4 1/3 innings, allowed only 2 hits, and beat the Phils at Veterans Stadium. He is 1-0 against Philadelphia this year, and boy, did he have to work for it. It was a 1-hit, 1-0 victory over Steve Carlton. His best game would be that game, the only hit by Von Hayes.
The defense is what you've been used to. Baker, Landreau, and Marshall in the outfield. It'll be Guerrero at third, Russell at short, Sachs is the second baseman, Brock's at first, Jack Fimple is behind the plate, and Bob Welch on the mound. And that sun has worked its way to where it's right in the big guy's eyes, and you can see the shadow is.
Mike, remember, is a first baseman who tried to learn the position in spring training, and look at him.
Here comes the ball right towards you. Joe doesn't really drive that ball. He hit it well, and Marshall, fighting this high sky, is really having some problems. And once he catches it, it's almost like I want to sit down and take an inventory here. That's not your classic way to catch it, but there is one out.
And, of course, the other night, he was fooled by a Morgan fly ball and had to wind up diving for it. Here's Pete Rose. Ball 1. Rose, in Game 2, had his 15-game hitting streak in the LCS, snapped by Fernando and Niedencure. He's 1 for 7. He has a walk, and he had a stolen base. It was a classic steal. Those of us who saw it will never forget it. He stole without a play. So the wily Rose.
Joe Morgan was talking about maybe having a meeting before today's game with just the players to talk about how the Dodgers have been playing them the previous 2 games because they have changed their pitching and some of the defense that they used all year.
Here's a 2-1 pitch, and Rose grounds it to third. Guerrero stays with it and gets him a tag by Brock. And you see Rose, Pete wasn't about to be tagged. He's playing for keeps. He was going to try and knock that ball out of Brock's hands.
Tell you, that's one reason why he gets booed, but he never gets booed in a white uniform. He doesn't give up. He never loses a game. He just runs out of time. Watch him hustle down there, and whoops, you get that glove there, and I'm going to knock it out of the way, and that's the way you play this game. You don't buy dance tickets when you go to first base. You want to be a base runner.
Well, here is Mike Schmidt. You remember the home run, of course, that Steve Carlton made stand up. He takes a strike. He is 3 for 7 in the series, the home run and 1 RBI. Interestingly enough, Mike Schmidt has been carrying thunder in that bat now for the last 10 years. He's averaged about 37 home runs a year. This is a favorite hitter's ballpark. Strike. They talk about Atlanta being a launching pad, but most of the hitters you talk to love this ballpark. 330 down the lines, 371 up the alleys, 408 to center. Great hitting background. And the ball flies out of here when the weather's warm. Fouled away.
And one other thing that ball players, the hitters, like, there's not a whole lot of foul territory. That ball usually ends up in the stands, which may mean 10, 15 extra swings. And down the lines, forget it once it gets out to as you see the indentation. Look how close that is.
Yeah, you run out of room immediately.
Ball players love that because it's extra swings. It's when you get that airport feeling that it's bad.
Fly ball. Here comes Marshall to fight the glare again. And he's staying with it.
He's put excitement back into fly ball. I'll say
tell you what, he's done a great job considering he's really a first baseman. So the Phillies are out in order. And at the end of an inning, the Dodgers nothing and the Phillies nothing. Captain Don McDuff of the Goodyear Blimp America. McDuff, a native of Anson, Texas, a 10-year veteran, and one of only 20 blimp pilots in the world, giving us those bird's-eye view shots of Veterans Stadium. Down on the ground, Kenny Landreau, Mike Marshall, and Bill Russell. Landreau is 2 for 6 with an intentional walk. Hits it to right center. Coming up for it is Gross to make the catch. Good play by Greg. So Greg Gross got a jump on it and stayed with it. The ball was just starting to sink. And the batter will be Mike Marshall. Marshall is 0 for 8. Struck out twice in the league championship series. And in 42 at-bats during the regular year, he struck out 19 times against the Phils. Of course, he's that kind of a young hitter. He hit .284, had 17 home runs and 65 RBIs. So he's in a hole 0-2. Tommy Lasorda in a most important game 3. He's from nearby Norristown. It's almost like coming home here. And down goes Mike.
We've got to like the way this young Hudson has walked out there and said, hey, you're going to have to beat me, because he's coming right at him. The proof being what he did to Guerrero after Baker had doubled and what he has just done to Marshall. Landreau hits the first pitch, and on 3 pitches he strikes out Marshall.
Well, I love the way he went after Guerrero. So here's Russell. Strike. Russell with a short stroke. He's the veteran of the ball club, and he is 3 for 6 with a stolen base. For Hudson, his most strikeouts in the game 9 when he had a 3-hitter against Houston.
I'll grant you we have a microphone pretty close, but you can hear that ball pop from up here.
There's a one-hopper at Rose. He staggers but stays with it. So Charlie Hudson sets the Dodgers down 1-2-3, picking up his second strikeout along the way. He's retired the last 4 in a row since the fly ball double by Dusty Baker. And at the end of an inning and a half at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, the Dodgers nothing and the Phils nothing. For the second inning, no score in the ball game. Just a moment ago, pitching coach Ron Perinoski and trainer Paul Padilla, the inventor of the Mr. Potato Head Award you've heard so much about. Perinoski didn't like the way Bob Welch was warming up. Welch had to leave starts on September the 19th and on the 24th because of a sore hip. He had no trouble in his most recent start on the 29th, and evidently Perry didn't like the way he was loosening up. He went out to talk to him.
And they tell me, Vin, that he's one of those pitchers who will not tell you of an injury, beforehand. It has to be a pretty serious thing, and it's all over right now.
And this has been a year of injury for him as he sets in to go head-to-head with Joe LaFay. LaFay had one pinch hitting appearance the other night and struck out. But Welch had a bad elbow in the spring, suffered a chip fracture in August when he was hit by New York's Walt Terrell, and then lately the bad hip. All 1 to LaFay. Who would believe it? But it has turned out that Joe LaFay and Sixto Lezcano would be hitting cleanup for the Phils in the League Championship Series. High twisting foul off third. Guerrero coming over to the seats, and this one is way back in and out of play. 1-2.
When you watch that Welch pitch, you can see why he impresses you. He's a big guy to begin with, and all those big guys always give you that little extra. And then with his delivery, I can't help but think, I was reading some notes last night, Roger Angel, who could really put the words together, says that Welch throws with an explosive elegance.
Yes, it is elegant to watch.
It really is.
All right. And that's drilled with explosive elegance to deep center. Landreau one-hands it going away. Kenny still fighting that glare. The shades were down, but he had to use his glove to catch the ball, not for shade.
And this is one of the reasons that both Gross and LaFay are in the lineup, but Landreau able to haul this one down. He battled it all the way, and he wasn't sure even after he caught it. Keep in mind, it's not just a reflection, but there are no clouds up there. And ball players really need some help with those clouds, because when you run after a while, those little floater, those dark spots are all over the place, and sometimes you pick on a floater and that ball will go right over your head. It's a tough high sky.
Interesting chain of events as Gary Matthews steps in, ball 1. Perinoski didn't like the way Welch warmed up, and the first hitter takes Landreau 405 feet to haul it in. Matthews 2 for 8, a home run against Fernando, and 1 RBI. Sarge, as they call him, Gary Matthews. gets in there. 2-2. So Welch and Hudson in game 3. Neither manager saying much about game 4. They want to wait till this one's over.
They're both playing. I've got a secret.
Fastball just off the corner. Ball 3.
When you take a ball like that, it's not because you got a great eye or you're a great hitter. It just happened to be a ball.
3-2 to Gary Matthews. Ball 4. So the Phils get their first base runner. A walk to Matthews.
A couple of elements. We talked about the high sky. What about the artificial surface? We asked Bill Russell.
Play a little deeper, step or two deeper, simply because it's going to be, long the sun's out, the ball is going to get to me a lot quicker because the AstroTurf is holding the heat, and consequently, again, the ball is going to be bouncier because of that heat holding into the AstroTurf.
Gary Matthews at first with 1 out in the bottom of the 2nd inning, no score. Indication of what kind of weather we have here in October in Philadelphia when Bill Russell is talking about the heat in the AstroTurf. It is a magnificent day. Here is Greg Gross, grounded out and walked in 2 pinch hit appearances. When he walked, remember, he inherited a 2-0 count. And boy, when you hit 300 and they give you a 2-0 count, you are really playing with house money. Gross batted .302 during the regular year. Matthews at first with 13 stolen bases. So we'll see if they put a play on.
Dodgers really do not expect him to pull that ball. In fact, Dusty Baker in left field is playing him as if he were a right-handed pull hitter.
And Landreau is in left center. So if Gross ever hits a ball, let's say, between Steve Sachs and second base, if it hits the rug, it'll scurry to the wall.
That Ron Peranowski concerns himself with is Bob Welch throwing over the first base as much as he does. Sometimes Ron says he throws over so much he loses concentration on the batter because he's bearing down so much on that base runner. There's a fine line there for the young pitcher.
Jack Bimble trying to set a target for him. And he missed again. Welch now is 3-0. They are moving around restlessly in the Dodger dugout and in the bullpen. I don't think they like what they see. And I just read Lasorda's lips, and the last part of it was get him out of here. There was also an expletive in there that I won't use. 3-0. And there's ball 4. And I don't think Welch is too long for the game. Alejandro Pena gets up in the Dodger bullpen. There is Pena, who might or might not have been the starting pitcher. First one wasn't. Lasorda was hollering something about that first one wasn't.
He was talking about the visits to the mound, because if you go out there twice in the same inning, right, he's gone. He wanted to make sure that that's the first visit that Peranowski is making, because what they're going to do, I'm sure, is try to buy some time. And now McSherry is going out to make sure that Padilla and Welch are talking about it as far as a possibility of an injury. 2 trips out there and you're gone, and that's why Lasorda was making sure, and now Peranowski goes out there and they're concerned about Welch, and it looks like he is going to be gone.
Yeah, he evidently that hip must be bothering him, and he's gone. When I saw Lasorda, I could read his lips saying, get him the dash out of there. And there he goes. After looking at Lasorda all these years, I read him pretty well.
Yes, you do. He's pretty upset, Vin. I just wonder if it is an injury, though.
Alejandro Pena will be called in. Now, how many pitches about did Welch make? We can check. In other words, I'm thinking about him coming back tomorrow, but he is hot. He's gone. He's not staying around for any talk.
He made 13 in the first inning. We'll count the ones in the second inning here.
Okay, Pena says he's ready, and we're going to find out if he really is. Gary Matthews at second. Greg Grote is first. 1 out in the second inning. Bo Diaz 0 for 6 in the series coming up.
And if you were the hitter, you'd say, well, I'm going to look for a fastball right here. Because all this, he wants to get ahead of me with all that's going on. He'll just want to throw a strike. Let's see.
So the Phillies apparently getting a monumental break when Welch has to come out with a sore hip. Ball 1. 1-0. the Phillies have Gary Matthews at third, Greg Gross at second. And the count 2-1. And on the message board it says, gracias, amigos.
Young Fimple, I just wonder if it's the bad hand, because he just did not move on that pitch. He did not shift at all. He tried to backhand the ball, and it cost him. You got those men on base, you got to get that body in front of you, because as a young catcher, they tell you, get your body in front of it. If you can catch the ball with your body in front of it, you're a great catcher. You start reaching out like he did, like he's got a pair of pliers in his hand, you're going to get burned.
Well, it's a wild pitch, but as you said, Fimple might have at least blocked it. And the count now 2-1 to Bo Diaz. The infield is back, except at the corners. And that's going to go all the way to the backstop. It caroms to Fimple, but he can't hold on to it, and Matthews scores. Going to third is Gross. And it is 1-0 Philadelphia as Christmas comes early to the city of brotherly love.
I don't think he was crossed up. He just didn't see it. He threw it right by him. He was looking fastball, and he just went off his glove. They call it a pass ball, and rightly so, because he didn't move. As you can see on the replay, his body didn't move either way. He was looking fastball, and he just threw it right by him.
So 2 walks, a change of pitcher, a wild pitch, and a pass ball. It is 1-0 in favor of Philadelphia. And Bo Diaz up there with the count 3-1. And the infield has to come up now with a runner at third. Ground ball foul just over the head of Greg Gross and down the line. 3-2.
Tell you that right now, Lasorda's stomach, there's a hockey game going on in there.
3 walks, a wild pitch, a pass ball for a run. He has lost, in his own words, his best pitcher. And it is 1-0 Philadelphia in the second inning with 1 out. And Ivan De Jesus coming up. Ground ball to Guerrero, waits for the hop, then throws to first as the second run scores. I wonder, didn't you think he might have had a play at the plate?
He did have a play at the plate, and what he did was look and decide to go to first base. He was not going to get the double play, and I don't know why he gift-wrapped the run for him. Now watch the play. He gets that ball in good shape. He's got him by 20 feet right there.
Sure.
If he throws a balloon, he's going to get him, but he decides, I'm going to go to first base, and they're not scoring that many runs. It's almost like they're playing with suction cups or off speed, like the game is 75 or 78, and they're playing 33 1/3.
The batter now is Charlie Hudson. A strike. I think, among other things, Guerrero was victimized by the fear of the artificial surface. He didn't charge that ball. If it was grass, I think it would have charged and instinctively thrown to the plate. But he played it like it was the head of a rattlesnake. 0-1. 1 ball and 1 strike. So the Phillies have gotten 3 walks, a pass ball, a wild pitch, and a ground out for 2 runs. That's a monumental rally in this series.
Boy, you talk about being marked down to 398. They really wholesaled him.
So Diaz at second base, and Hudson trying to pick him up, and fouls it back out of play. 1-2 to Charlie Hudson. Philadelphia leading 2-0 in the second inning. And Bob Welch leaving because of a flare-up of the bursitis in his left hip. Hudson had 5 hits, but 3 RBIs during the regular year. Waves at it. So the Phillies don't do any hitting, but the Dodgers give them 2. And at the end of 2, Philadelphia 2 and the Dodgers nothing. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
De Jesus hits the ball to Guerrero. Now Guerrero waits for it from the artificial surface, but it looks like he's going to get grossed by 30 feet, but he decides to go to first base. I just wondered, it looked like he might have had a little bit of trouble getting out of the glove, but I still think he could have gotten him by 20 feet.
It's interesting. You and I are wondering, why did he go? And I'm speculating on the AstroTurf and the fact that he was afraid of the bounce. Steve Dans of NBC said, you know, maybe he thought there were 2 outs. And when you realize there was such a lengthy pause, and he went into the dugout. He didn't even stand out on the field while Pena was warming up. Somehow, inexplicably, perhaps Guerrero thought there were 2 outs. Maybe.
Well, I hope he doesn't tell Lasorda that.
No, he won't. in English or Spanish. He'll keep that quiet. Paul Owens has himself a 2-0 lead without really doing very much about it. A couple of walks, a wild pitch, a fastball, and a ground ball. So the Phillies leading, and now it's Jack Pimple, followed by Pena, and then Sachs. Pimple was born about 8 miles from the city of Philadelphia, in Darby, Pennsylvania, fouled away. He didn't play in Game 1. He hit the ball very hard in Game 2. He was robbed of a hit by Mike Schmidt, robbed of a hit on a leaping catch by Joe Morgan, and managed to get a base hit, go 1 for 4 and an RBI. He really was raised in Sacramento. We ought to talk about a 1 in a million. Jack Pimple and Dodger catcher Mike Scioscia were both born in the same hospital in Darby, Pennsylvania. I mean, that's a Guinness Book of Records. Pennsylvania born or no? Down you go.
I asked Claude Osteen, the pitching coach, about this cut finger fastball or this cut fastball.
Well, yes, he does, Joe, and he holds the ball off center a little bit and gets on top of the ball. The hand has to be on top of the ball, and the ball literally comes out in an off-centered position and has very close velocity to the fastball. And by turning maybe more or less, he can get a variation of breaks on that cut fastball, and it's very quick, and the break is at the end of the pitch, which is what the pitcher wants.
That's Alejandro Pena hacking away up there, 0-2. Pena had a half a dozen hits during the regular year. One of them was a home run in St. Louis. He is a free swinger. He holds the bat down at the knob and just goes for broke. 1-2.
It's a Joe Horner school of hitting.
Yeah.
Hope the ball is where the bat is.
Well, he's got his 1 HR. 0-2. And he promptly bangs it to center for a base hit. And, of course, for Hudson, that's the ultimate insult. Not only to give up a base hit to the opposing pitcher, but 0-2. He might have been a little careless. He has struck out 3. So Pena singles, and that'll bring up Steve Sachs, who flied to right in the first inning. Sachs 0 for 1 with the fly ball. Pena disdaining the windbreaker. So on the 7th of October, magnificent weather in Philadelphia. Fly ball, and that's a graveyard in center field for people like Sachs. So Gross puts it away. In his rookie year, Tommy Lasorda and Steve Sachs would pay each other money. Every time Sachs hit a ball in the air, he had to pay Lasorda, and then when he hit a ground ball, Lasorda would give it back to him. He was trying to teach him to beat that ball down on the rug. And for a fellow without power in a leadoff role to hit fly balls when you're playing on artificial surface, that is a crime. So 2 down, and here is Greg Brock, who fouled out in the first inning. Lasorda was doing some agonizing whether to play Rick Monday or Greg Brock the other day. He chose Brock. He again elected Brock today. He still has a hunch that Brock's going to do something big for him. 4-1.
You usually would not associate the word patience with Lasorda, but in the case of Brock and Marshall, he has shown great patience.
Yeah, I know. Right. 1-1. There's Rick Monday, the veteran who, of course, had the key home run in the LCS 2 years ago against Montreal and Steve Rogers to get the Dodgers into the World Series. And there's a drive to right. LaFay is right there. No runs, 1 hit, a single by Alejandro Pena, and 1 man left. The Dodgers have left 2 at the end of 2.5 innings. The Phillies 2, the Dodgers nothing, with Messrs. Morgan, Rose, and Schmidt coming up. Blue skies over Philadelphia, and the Phillies leading the Dodgers 2-0 as we go to the bottom of the 3rd inning. Joe Morgan followed by Pete Rose and then Mike Schmidt. They weren't with us in the 2nd inning. Bob Welch was pitching before he even began the inning. The Dodgers were distressed over the way he was warming up. They allowed him to pitch, and Joe LaFay sent Kenny Landreau to the center field fence almost 408 feet away. That was an indication that something was wrong when he then walked Matthews and Gross. And the Dodgers jerked him immediately, and we had a report that his left hip had flared up on him. Pena came in and warmed up, and he wasn't ready, nor was his catcher, Jack Pimple, because Pena wild pitched and then had a pass ball for 1 run. De Jesus hit a ground ball to Guerrero, inexplicably threw to first instead of going to the plate, and with all of it, the Phillies picked up 2 gift runs. So now in the third, it's Morgan, Rose, and Schmidt against Alejandro Pena. Morgan flied to right in the first inning. As you can see, he's drawn the collar thus far. Joe Morgan, we were talking about his credentials. Well, my gosh, Rookie of the Year in '65, MVP in '75 and '6, 9 times an All-Star, 5 Gold Gloves. Truly a remarkable player. 3-2 to Little Joe.
In the old days, when we used to wear buttons on the shirts, they used to call Morgan the guy with a 2-button strike zone. That's about all he had.
You look back at Houston when they had Joe Morgan and Jimmy Wynn, and you talk about dynamite coming in small packages. And that's fouled back upstairs out of play. So it's still 3-2. Joe is 5 feet 7 inches tall, but to the pitchers in the league, he's a lot bigger than that. On deck, Pete Rose. 2-0 Philadelphia, bottom of the third. Nobody out. Line drive. Base hit into right field. Morgan making a turn, but holding. So that's the first Philadelphia hit. And it will bring up Pete Rose.
The ball was well hit. Brock at first base gives it a leap. The way he could get it. And Morgan is on, and Rose has a gap to shoot through.
Morgan trying to induce an error, but Mike Marshall played the ball calmly and then threw a strike into second. Little Joe making a big turn at first, trying to shake up the rookie right fielder. And Pete Rose climbs in. Grounded to third in the first inning. Pena is very quick coming over there, but he is coming over against the most successful base stealer in National League history. His percentage is 81% success. The best in the American League, Willie Wilson. So this is a pretty good fight here, Joe.
He's getting a good lead, too. He's got that right foot is on the artificial surface, as you can see.
Boy, that was close. Oh, you cut meat that thin, you'll starve to death.
He's trying to take the spring out of his legs, but you see that Joe is just waiting for the first move. And the first move being towards first base, and back he goes.
The other way to do it, of course, if he comes back feet first, is good hard tags on the thighs. Another first baseman's trick. Most base runners today seem to go back with a hand to cut down any tagging area. Pena pitch, the only time he moves quickly is on his move to first. Everything else is a walk in the park to him. Not going. Strike on the corner. 0-1 to Pete Rose. Well, let's see. You're leading 2-0, and you have Pete Rose at the plate. Do you have him bunting with Mike Schmidt coming up, or is that just a decoy?
Decoy.
And there's the bunt in the air, foul, and drops untouched. So they had Rose bunting, and the count now 0-2. Ground ball in the hole, base hit into right field, and Morgan will go to third, and Philadelphia in business.
There's the reason, Ben, that I would not have bunted, although I'm certainly not managing it on this artificial surface. It doesn't take a hard hit ball to get through there. And Pete did not sting that ball, but there was a big gap because Brock has to hold Morgan on. And Morgan, I mean, it's what 3 hops before he gets to him. Morgan sees it all the way, and once it gets by him, he's headed for third.
So Alejandro Pena, who has not been effective at all in his last several starts, has given up a walk, wild pitched, and passed ball to run, and now gives up back-to-back singles with nobody out in the third inning. The Phillies trying to tear it wide open. And Mike Schmidt is the batter with the left hand hitting Joe LaFay on deck, and right-handed Joe Beckwith is throwing in the Dodger bullpen. But make no mistake about it, when Welch left in the second inning, the Dodgers were really hurting. Ball one. Schmidt flied to right in the first inning. 0 for 1 today. Good off-speed breaking ball.
It's obviously a very crucial time at bat for Pena, because the Dodgers have to be on their heels after watching the Phillies wholesale those 2 runs in the second inning, and Mike Schmidt has a chance here to light the fuse and just blow them right out of the ballpark.
High fly ball into very shallow center. Landreau coming up on the dead run, and the runners are not going to go anywhere, not on a pop fly with the center fielder charging. And they made him throw, and Landreau actually made a poor throw. He threw it on the fly over Brock's head, and there was really no need to do that. He almost threw it away.
Usually a play like that, you just run it in, but Morgan gave him a false start, and he kind of lobbed it. When he did, he threw it over Brock's head, but the Fimple was right there.
So with 1 out in the third inning, the batter will be Joe LaFay. Now remember, it was while warming up before the second inning started that the Dodgers showed concern about Welch, and then LaFay sent Kenny Landreau 400 feet or more for his long fly ball. If he does it again, he picks up an RBI. So Joe LaFay hitting cleanup. And boy, look at the difference versus left-handers and right-handers. Fastball right to left field. Baker going back on the track, makes the catch. Tagging is Morgan, and scurrying back to first is Rose. 3-0 Philadelphia. RBI LaFay.
Tell you something, the Phillies couldn't work out here yesterday because they painted new lines and they painted the fence. These Dodger outfielders are going to come up with green backs the way these Phillies have been hitting the Dodger pitching this early in the game. Ball was well hit as we take another look, and there's Dusty right up against the warning track, and boom, there he goes, hits the wall. Landreau did it earlier.
So a couple of singles, a pop fly, and then the long fly ball for the run. And here's Gary Matthews, walked in the second inning. Right. Matthews walked, Gross walked, and they took Welch out because of the bad hip. And then Pena wild pitch Matthews to third, and Fimple's pass ball allowed him to score. It's 3-0 Philadelphia, bottom of the third, 2 out. He tried to steal it on Pena, but this time the Dodgers were ready. So Pete Rose is thrown out as Russell visits with Harvey. Take another look.
It's kind of a delayed steal. You see the reaction by Fimple. He just broke a bit too soon because Fimple was ready to throw it back to the pitcher, but his good arm made up for that little bit of a delay.
1 run, 2 hits, nobody left. 3-0 Philadelphia, into 3. We're going to the 4th inning at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. And the replica of the Liberty Bell is very much intact atop the upper deck in dead center field. It'll be Dusty Baker, Pedro Guerrero, and Kenny Landreau, and the Dodgers are not very much intact. They are losing 3-0, and they are without 15-game winner Bob Welch, who had to leave with a bad hip. Baker double to right. Fly ball inside the right field line that kangarooed up in the seats for the ground rule double.
And young Hudson has only made 31 pitches to this point.
Boy, what a story. Charlie Hudson a year ago in Class A ball, trying to give the Philadelphia Phillies an edge 2 games to 1 in this rubber. Dusty 1 for 1. There's a line drive in a left center, and that will fall for the hit. Matthews making careful it will not kangaroo over his head. And the batter will be Pedro Guerrero. So Guerrero already figuring prominently in the game. He came up with Baker in scoring position and 2 out in the first inning. And Charlie Hudson went right after him and struck him out. And then it was Guerrero, instead of throwing home to get a cinch out of Gross, who threw to first, allowing Philadelphia's second run to score. So he hasn't done anything, and yet again he has. Off speed and a high fly ball to left field. Matthews will make the catch, however. Guerrero hit under it. He just hit under a high off-speed pitch, and he thought he hit it out. He just got under it. So Guerrero walking back, disappointed and in disgust.
Joe Morgan did not throw the ball to Morgan. He's to Hudson. He's out there telling them something. And I'm sure that one of the things he's telling them is, hey, those runs don't come that easy. And if you're going to get beat, don't you be getting beat on that big lollipop, that balloon you just threw. You get beat on some good stuff.
Boy, that's what it was. It was a lollipop. And, of course, that's probably maddening if you're the hitter. I mean, you got one that looked like a basketball, and you pop it out.
Hey, that's the kind that you call room service for.
Here's Landreau. Ball one. Landreau lined out to center in the second inning. Kenny 0 for 1. He hit it at Greg Gross. He has 17 home runs, a career high this year. All 17 were against right-handers. And that's on the hands of foul, and Mike Schmidt trying to run it down. He's there. So he made a bad pitch to Guerrero and got away with it, and he made a very good pitch on Landreau as he jammed him, and the batter is Mike Marshall. Marshall struck out in the second inning, 0 for 9, and Lasorda has been trying to not motivate, but to loosen up Brock and Marshall. He feels that they are tighter than drums, and he keeps pointing out, hey, look at Rose and Morgan. They're not doing anything. But the kids are evidently doing what kids do, trying too hard.
He got him on 3 pitches the last time. The first one was a fastball. This was a fastball, and he went for it. I mean, he's up there. He's anxious to hit. It's pretty obvious. Talking to Rick Monday, that's one of the things he said about Brock. He said he's got to quit fighting himself. He's got to enjoy it a little bit more. But that's very difficult.
Oh,
hey.
Strike one pitch. Off speed and a high fly ball to left field. Back goes Matthews. Away back. It's gone. And he got burned on the off-speed pitch.
I'm watching Morgan, and Morgan at second base got his hands on his hips. I guarantee you that's what he said, and now he's got himself a one-run ball game, and that's one of the things that you talk about. Here comes Joe. He wants to talk to him again. There's your cheerleader right there.
Yep.
The air was out of the balloon, and they just blew it back up for him.
Interestingly, the Dodgers have led the National League in home run. Look at Morgan saying, I thought I told you to take that change up and lose it.
I don't think he told him to lose it. I think he told him where to put it.
Here it is.
And he really hit it. There's no doubt about this one. And look at the difference in that bullpen. Mark Cressy, Niedenfuhr, and the ball comes back.
Oral Hershiser, the rookie relief pitcher, winds up fielding it in the Dodger bullpen. And so with one swing, the Dodgers are back in the game. You know, they've led the National League in home runs 6 of the last 7 years. Led this year. You always think of their pitching. High chopper to Little Joe, and he's going to have to hurry, and he got him. Good play. For the Dodgers in the 4th inning, Charlie Hudson got away with a change up to Guerrero, but he got burned on a change to Marshall. And at the end of 3.5 innings, Philadelphia 3 and the Dodgers 2. Strike one pitch. Off speed and a high fly ball to left field. Back goes Matthews. Away back. It's gone. And he got burned on the off-speed pitch. There's Center City, the heart of Philadelphia, and the famous Ben Franklin Bridge. And there is suddenly a bridge in the gap here in the 4th inning, where it had been 3-0 Philadelphia. It's now 3-2. Gary Matthews, Greg Gross, and Bo Diaz. And Joe, I got to ask you something. In between pitches, is Pena working on Matthews? 4-1. It's enough for a kid to make a mistake and get away with it, and then to be reminded by Joe Morgan. But how about Bo Diaz calling for the pitch?
Well, I have to assume that Hudson did it on his own. I'm not going to blame the catcher, but I do want to go one step farther with that.
Ball 2.
I'm surprised that Diaz didn't go out himself after Guerrero and said, hey, if you're going to throw that thing, you bounce it up there. Don't be throwing it up in his eyes. And until you can ask the question, did he call it? Did he change up on his own? He's got the ball, so you have to put some of the blame on him, but you got to hang some of the donkey on Diaz, too.
Being consoled, sitting just to the right of him, is John Denny in the Philadelphia dugout. There's John, 19-game winner during the year, might be the Cy Young winner. 2-0, the count to Gary Matthews. And ball 3, so Pena on the wild side. He has already walked 1, given up a wild pitch, and 2 hits and a run. 3-0 to Gary Matthews. Fastball down the pipe, 3-1. Phillies 3 runs, 2 hits. The Dodgers 2 runs, 4 hits, and we're in the 4th inning. Fastball, and that's hammered to left center. Baker going back and watching, it's gone.
Just a home run, and when Gary hit it, he knew it. He's going to watch it, and he's going to make that lovely trip when he knows it's out of the ballpark. The reason I say it's more than a home run, because with the home run by Marshall, the Dodgers had come back. Some of the air is back in the balloon, and this is when you want your pitcher to come out there and really slam the door and say, okay, we're back in this game. But Matthews says, oh, no, and he comes back with that boomer, and the momentum is on the first base side again.
Here's Greg Gross for a strike, and, of course, for Gary Matthews, that's his 2nd home run in League Championship Series. Hit one the other night against Valenzuela. Rick Honeycutt standing up in the Dodger bullpen. Pena is due to bat 2nd when the Dodgers hit in the 5th, and he has not been impressive at all. So Gross on the off-speed pitch, foul tips it. Pimple holds onto it, and he strikes out.
Then I think one of the new terms in sports is the unanswered points or the unanswered touchdowns. But I think in baseball, it goes beyond just unanswering, because when you come back like the Dodgers did, you're looking for your pitcher to really write the other club a message, and then Matthews says, no way, I'm going to answer you with this, and boom, there it is.
Yeah, key blow indeed. And now in the bullpen, Pat Zachary begins to loosen up. So Pat Zachary, the skinny right-hander who looks like he came here on a raft, he is really something. 1 ball and no strikes. Ball 2. So Bo Diaz and Lasorda dying in the dugout. Fastball grounded to third. Guerrero with a long throw to Brock. 2 down. The batter will be the shortstop, Ivan De Jesus, who grounded to third in the 2nd inning. And a fly ball to left. Baker is there. And lost it. And totally lost the ball. He was there all right, 30 feet short.
He never did move on that ball. It just hit, and he watched it, just like you and I.
So there's a 1981 Gold Glove winner.
He doesn't know where it is. Now he sees it bounce, and unfortunately for him, 1 bounce isn't out.
So De Jesus at first, 2 down, and Charlie Hudson the batter. And of course, it's the old story. If nothing else, that gets the pitcher out of the way, and there goes a wild pitch into the Philadelphia dugout.
Kid
1 base from the rubber.
He didn't see it, Vin. I'm telling you, he didn't see it. Uptight about it, and it just goes right off his glove and shin guard. Let's see from the replay what happens. It would hit the dirt. They're going to give him a wild pitch, but he really got down there late. I don't think he saw it.
So Pena is charged with 2 wild pitches and the fastball against Pimple. Pena has given up 2 of the 4 runs. And the count 2-0 to Charlie Hudson.
Did you do that thing already about this game may not be rebroadcast?
You know, I don't remember. Did I do that already? Yes, I did.
because I was going to give them permission if they wanted
can
it.
have it. That's a strike. By the way, if you're wondering, the National League for most wild pitches in a league championship, 2 in a game, and the people who did it, Juan Marichal, a Hall of Famer, Son Tough Dominican, Joaquin Andujar last year, and now Alejandro Pena, a Latin American smack to the wild pitch. Got him. Pimple is trying to protect that fractured hand, at least with the pitcher up there. However, 1 run, 2 hits. DeJesus left at second base at the end of 4, 4-2 Philadelphia. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Fastball, and that's hammered to left center. Baker going back and watching it. It's gone. The Philadelphia skyline with a magnificent blue backdrop. Well, what a day. You could set this one in your ring. Temperatures in the 70s and you can see forever. And all the way down into Veterans Stadium, and here we are. Joe, at least one thing about this ball game, it's a departure from the overpowering pitching we had seen in the first 2 games.
It is. I mean, everything is an adventure. Fly balls, wild pitches, and it makes for exciting baseball. I like this. I love the low-scoring games, but this is more exciting.
Yeah, and of course, a guy like Pena in 170-some-odd regular season innings, only 2 wild pitches. He's aimed that much in the last 2 innings, so the pressure is here as well.
Well, he's made it tough, I mean, on the catcher because of the, I think, looking at that ball, just trying to pick it up. It's just not ideal conditions.
There's Alejandro, and he's going to go out for a hitter, so his day is done. Rafael Landistoi is in the on-deck circle. The lights are on, but just looking at your screen, you can see they have not taken any effect. There are slivers of sunlight scattered in an arc from left field to the right field corner. And there's a crescent of sunlight in straightaway center, but the rest of the field is all in shade. And yet with such a bright sky, the lights have not taken effect at all. Pimple followed by Landistoi and then Sachs. Ground ball down to DeJesus. 1 away.
You know, and one more thing too, Vin. I think that's asking the catcher a lot when the guy says, "Well, I got a cut fastball that I can sail into the right-hand hitters. I can sink it. I can do this." It's almost like he throws the ball and says, "Good luck. You're on your own." I mean, it used to be a fastball was a fastball, and I don't say you can have signals for everything, but when they start making moves on their own, it does make it a bit tough.
Well, I'm sure as we look at Rick Honeycutt, the left-hander throwing in the Dodger bullpen. 4 runs, 4 hits for the Phils, including a home run by Gary Matthews. 2 runs, 4 hits for the Dodgers, including a double by Baker and a 2-run home run by Marshall. And here is Landistoi, a switch hitter. A chopper to the right side. Nice play by Joe Morgan to get him.
And with that little motorman's glove that he wears, he made quite a play on that ball. Ball gets out there in a hurry on this artificial surface, and little Joe is there. He gets it on that little short hop, and once he had it, easy out.
5 gold gloves to little Joe in his career. Here's proof of the reason why.
Covered a lot of ground.
So with 2 down in the 5th inning, Steve Sachs will be the batter, followed by Greg Brock. Phillies 4, Dodgers 2, top of the 5th. Charlie Hudson. And Bob Welch relieved in the 2nd inning. 4-1. The count is Sachs. Ball 3, and Charlie Hudson struggling with Sachs. And there's ball 4. So they get a break. And Greg Brock will be coming up. Brock fouled out. Remember when Mike Schmidt leaned into the stands to make a fine play? And he hit the ball hard in the 3rd inning, but lined out to Joe LaFay. So Brock is 0 for 2. For Hudson, that's the first pass, first walk he has given up.
Sachs is over talking to Mota. I just wonder if he's thinking, hey, I could steal on this guy and all that, but you got to tie and run at the plate. He's liable to take one swing and tie it up for you, and I'm sure that's what Mota is telling him.
Ball one. The Phillies completely tied up Brock during the regular year. He hit less than 120. But again, you have to remember, there's a kid hitter, there's a kid pitcher.
Diaz is trying to babysit him through it. They're playing Brock to pull the ball. Rose has to hold Sachs at first base, so there's a big gap there. Everything indicates that Sachs will stay there to give the hold to Brock. To maybe give him a ball that he can pull and maybe hit it out of here because they're swung way around.
And Morgan is beyond the skin line, so he's playing a deep second base. He's behind now. He walked Sachs. Remember, he went 3-0, 3-1, and then walked him. And now he is 2-0. So that means he has missed 6 of his last 7 pitches. And Claude Osteen going out with Ron Reed and Willie Hernandez down in the bullpen. The interesting thing about Charlie Hudson, a kid like this has a dramatic effect on a ball club. They expected so much from Hudson. They were able to trade Dick Ruthven to get Willie Hernandez. And then when they got Hernandez, they were able to trade Sid Monge to get Joe LaFay. And all of that is because of Charlie Hudson's youthful prowess, as you see Reed and Hernandez in the pen.
Mechanically, what Osteen looks for is the kick of that left leg, if the back leg, the right leg rather, if he slings it and doesn't bend the knee, he's too far out in front. He's got a point that he watches.
2-0, and Brock could be swinging here. But he looks at his strike. Brock is an extremely selective hitter. He could have had a green light and still didn't want the location. It's not where he wanted to drive it. And Sachs goes. Pitch in the dirt. The throw is very high. So, Joe, I think you were right when you said Sachs talked to Mota about can he have permission to steal.
He had to have it because he runs all the time. Here's the motion. Watch that back leg now. If he just slings it without bending the knee, no, he's got it bent, so he did all right on that one. The throw is high. Sachs is in easily. Claude Osteen, I think he's just an outstanding pitching coach because he knows his people very well.
3-1 is popped in the air, foul, and out of play. Off to the left, carrying back into the seat. No runs, no hits. Sachs left at second base, and at the end of 4.5 innings, the Phillies 4 and the Dodgers 2.
It's one of my bigger days. Let me buy a beer. Sure. These fans, I love them. When I came in, they didn't recognize me at first, but then when I told them who I was, next thing you know, they're buying me my favorite beer, light beer from Miller. They know us ex-big leaguers drink light because it's got a third less calories than their regular beer. It's less filling, and it tastes great. Thanks. Hey, it's a pleasure to buy a beer for a great pitcher like Whitey Ford. Hey, so I lied.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Hey, Whitey, I thought you were a lefty. Oh, that's right.
Overhead shot of the Franklin Institute here in Philadelphia. Franklin Parkway, magnificent fountain square there, actually the circle. Boy, it's a beautiful city.
This is a great sightseeing city. You really, in fact, I saw today in the paper that Dom DeLuise came over here to sightsee and nobody believed him. He said, well, I had to be here and I didn't want to fly back to the coast and come back. I just came to sightsee. This is a great area to sightsee.
Oh, and how. And of course, when you come here, in 1976, we really had the smack of it when we went over to Independence Hall. And you look there and you think, hey, this is where it all began. It's all about right here.
Boy, I tell you, in 76, when they had everything here, you're really glad that your pop took out the papers. I'll tell you that, brother.
Well, here is Rick Honeycutt. He is the third Dodger pitcher, a record of 2-3. Those 2 victories were the 2 excellent games, one better than the other, against Philadelphia. But of course, I'm sure Lasorda is unhappy that his hand is forced. He had to use Pena and Honeycutt with his ball club behind. He was hoping that Honeycutt would take the place of a Steve Howe. But he can't have his ducks in a row. Joe Morgan, Pete Rose, and Mike Schmidt in the bottom of the 5th inning. Philadelphia 4 and the Dodgers 2. And what we might have lost in numbers at Veterans Stadium certainly made up for by exuberance. Morgan is fly to right, single to right. A bunt, foul, off to the left, 0-1.
I have to almost smile to see Morgan do that, because every year when he would go to spring training, he'd spend a day and a half with Rod Carew to teach him, and then he'd never bunt. But he always had the threat of the bunt.
Well, he had a pretty good look at Honeycutt in Rick's 2 appearances against Philadelphia, especially the game he pitched here. I mean, he did look like $1 million. 0-2 on Joe Morgan with Pete Rose to follow. 4-2 Philadelphia, bottom of the 5th inning. High fly ball to center. Landreau is there. Kenny waiting, puts it away. We'd like to remind you it's Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern. NBC Sports World returns a scheduled 10-round middleweight bout between undefeated knockout artist John Collins, number 2 ranked Tony Simpson, live from Atlantic City, New Jersey, plus the Gold Cup Unlimited hydroplane race from Evansville, Indiana, all coming up when NBC Sports World returns Saturday. John Collins, so serious about that fight, I understand he postponed his wedding. Yeah. He'll be back.
Have another fight on his hands.
Rose is grounded to third, single to right, 1 for 2. 4-2 Philadelphia, bottom of the 5th inning, bases empty. High chopper, going to be a tough play. Guerrero will let Russell wait for the bounce, and that's the end of it.
How do you play that ball? It's a base hit for Rose, and you talk about a guy taking off. He saw base hit. He comes out with enthusiasm. Watch him hustle down there. Remember Jim Murray talking about lots of ball players have a little boy in them. They won't let him out. Pete Rose lets his out, I'll tell you. Look at this. That ball just bounces right over Russell's head.
Rose has a closet full, a collection of base hits in his career, and now he has 2 hits today. He's had 1,158 multiple hit games in his career. I mean, there's nobody close. They're remarkable stats. So here's Mike Smith. Can you imagine multiple hit games? Woo. Schmidt is fly to right, fly to center, 0 for 2. Ball 1, sinker down and away. Rick Honeycutt, out of Tennessee, out of the University of Tennessee. Mike Schmidt, 1 ball and no strikes to count. Man away, ball 2. Fastball just seemed to run off the corner.
Here's when you're in trouble, though. Schmidt is just taking a look at Bristol, and Bristol looks at him as if to say, what are you looking at me for? You're hitting fourth. You're getting paid all that money. Hit it.
2 balls and no strikes to count. The all-time home run hitter in Philadelphia history, Mike Schmidt. And he hits it to center. Landreau started back, comes up, and short hops it and knees it into left field. Rose going to third and will hold. Into second base goes Schmidt. Landreau thought the ball, first of all, was hit harder than it was. He leaned back, then tried to catch up to it.
And then he was afraid it would bounce over him. He had just seen what happened to Russell, hit his knee, and very alertly, he finally picks it up and fires it into third. There's a different angle. He really didn't know where it went, saw it in the air, and away he goes, and he has a little trouble picking it up.
So with runners at second and third and 1 out, Sixto Lezcano is now going to bat for Joe Lefebvre with first base open, and Gary Matthews on deck. And of course the chances are the Dodgers are going to put Lezcano on. We'll see. It's a double for Mike Schmidt all the way. There's Joe Beckwith in the Dodger bullpen.
You know, when we came out here, Vin, and we talked to Pete Rose about it, that's the first thing he talked about was this artificial surface, and you've really seen it come into play. As Lasorda comes out, he may make a change of his own right here with Lezcano in there. It's not only that you play back, you're so leery of the bounces, and you're so afraid it's going to bounce over your head that you really, you're shooting it with a scared stick. You're like just laying back. That's the best way you can put it.
So Honeycutt has to feel very unlucky. Rose kills a couple of worms in front of home plate, and that's a base hit. And then Schmidt's fly ball to center, slightly misplayed by Landreau, goes for a double. And in the box score, of course, the old story, they all look like line drives. So Honeycutt gives up 2 hits. And with runners at second and third, Lasorda talking to plate umpire John McSherry. With Lezcano and Matthews back-to-back right-hand batters, you just heard him say Beckwith. So Joe Beckwith will be called in, and Honeycutt, with tough luck, goes trotting out.
Those are some of the great conversations on a mound when a manager is trying to buy some time. I mean, I've literally heard managers say to the umpire, well, what would you do? You get paid for that. They're just buying time. But he's made his change. Beckwith is coming in.
4-2 Phils. They have runners at second and third, 1 out in the 5th. If it is written in the cards for the Los Angeles Dodgers, the cards read this way. 1 is injured, 1 was wild, and the other unlucky. And, of course, the primary character in this little drama today is Bob Welch. Welch had to come out with the slight bursitis that he has in his hip. The game crumbled and began to fall apart because of Pena's wildness. And then Honeycutt is unlucky, and here is Joe Beckwith to pick up for him.
He's been the long man for the Dodgers, and it's going to be his job to try to hold him.
4 runs, 6 hits for Philadelphia. The Phils, after leading 3-0, saw the Dodgers come back 3-2. Gary Matthews hit the big home run, as you see Phil Fanatic. That gave Philadelphia the momentum again, leading 4-2. And now here in the 5th inning, the Dodger infield has to play up. And instead of leaving Honeycutt in, they bring in Beckwith to pitch to Lezcano with first base open. Sixto is 1 for 7. And look at that, boxed by Pimple. So Jack is having his problems behind the plate, 1-0.
Well, when you have a day like that, those bench jockeys really give it to you. And the pet line always is, are you using that D and M model, which is drop and moan?
Drop and moan. 1 ball and no strikes. Ball 2. Just did catch a corner of the strike zone. 2-1 to Sixto Lezcano. Off speed, and boy, you could see Sixto's head jerk back. He swung so hard.
He was looking for downtown.
Sort of pacing on a burning bridge right about now. 2-2, the count to Lezcano. Got him. So Sixto strikes out. So much for all that strategy. And the batter now will be Gary Matthews. Now first base open. Matthews is followed by a left-hand hitter, Greg Gross. So Beckwith will go head-to-head with Gary. Matthews walked and scored in the 2nd inning. Took 3rd on a wild pitch and came home on a fast ball. And then in the 4th inning, had that key home run to get the momentum back. Time call for a moment.
They're not sure the outs is what's happening. Scoreboard was wrong, and it's 2 outs, and all the infielders want to make sure.
Especially Guerrero.
Looking at her husband.
This is Gary Matthews, huh?
Has to be, I guess.
So 2nd and 3rd. Ball 1. Matthews was the #1 hitter for Philadelphia against Dodger pitching during the regular year. Hitting .342, and he's .333 in the League Championship Series against the Dodgers with 2 home runs. And he hammers it to right center, and that's going to be in there, and he'll get 2 runs home. And it is 6-2 Philadelphia.
through and go over his head.
Fouled away by Greg Gross. Gary Matthews has come up with 2 dandies for the Phils. His home run in the 4th inning when Philadelphia was threatened, and now a base hit to break it open in the 5th inning. So with 2nd and 3rd, they got away with it by striking out Lescano. But with Matthews being followed by a left-hand hitter, they pitched to him, and he got the key hit.
And I'm sure Lasorda will be second-guessed, but I'm going to go on record right now that I think if I had Beckwith out there, I'd rather have him pitching to Matthews than I would to Gross, because Matthews is a free swinger. Gross is one of those hunt and peck guys. You're a tough guy to strike out. He'll get the bat on the ball.
A moment ago, they had a quick shot of Lasorda. That's popped in the air, foul and out of play. And Lasorda was furious and said that blankety-blank pitch. So apparently the pitch that Beckwith made to Matthews is what really ticked Tommy off.
It was up. You can't pitch him. He's a dead high fastball hitter. That's the scouting report. Even the 2 guys that worked for Custer knew that.
Well, that's what he got. A high fastball. And it is 6-2 Philadelphia in the 5th inning. And Lasorda fit to be tied. And Matthews goes on a pitch out. Pimple high. He's safe.
Pimple had to pitch out, but he was very deliberate in getting rid of the ball, and Matthews just a straight steal. You see him looking, and there it goes right there. The throw was high, but he was very deliberate in his delivery, and Matthews helped watch him now. He takes a little bit of time, high throw, and Matthews is safe.
And of course, you have to be reminded that Jack Pimple is playing with a hairline fracture of the right hand. His ring finger and his little finger taped together. Look at all the bandage around his hand, and you wonder why he's deliberate. It takes him that long just to grip the ball.
That's right. I mean, he's playing with the bad hand. He's got to make sure he gets a good grip on it, and then that's why he makes the high throw, and that's why he is deliberate. You say, why isn't Yeager playing? That I can't answer.
No bat. 6-2 Philadelphia. And Gross was looking inside, and the pitch was outside, but the strikeout came too late. And at the end of 5 innings, the Philadelphia Phillies getting a standing ovation from this enthusiastic crowd at the vet. The Phillies 6 and the Dodgers 2. Gary Matthews, a big man in Philadelphia. He has 2 hits, including a home run, 3 RBIs, has scored twice and stolen a base.
And that's a man that Tom Seaver in the very first game said if there's going to be a big definite factor of the guy who might emerge, it would be Gary Matthews, and he certainly has done that.
Meanwhile, Philly Fanatic putting on a show with an aide in front of the Dodger dugout. Needless to say, spirits are high in Philadelphia. The Phillies led 3-0. The Dodgers came back with 2. And now Philadelphia has broken it open 6-2, and it's Baker, Guerrero, and Landreau in the 6th inning. Right. Neither manager would commit himself about tomorrow's pitcher. But the Dodgers now are running out of options. Little foul off first. Rose trying to run it down, but it's in the seats. You would guess that Jerry Royce, who pitched so well but lost to Steve Carlin, would just about have to be the Dodgers pitcher tomorrow. Wouldn't you say, Joe?
He's got to start Royce and use everybody that he can, including Al Campanis if he has to, because that's it.
And he can't come back with Valenzuela. He made too many pitches. You would have to save him if there be a Sunday. High fly ball to straightaway center. Greg Gross is there. By the way, Sixto Lescano, who batted for Joe LeFay, stayed in the game in right field. So the outfield is Matthews, Gross, and Lescano. 1 down, and Pedro Guerrero, the batter. Guerrero struck out and flied to left, 0 for 2. What's important is he struck out with a runner at second. Fouled away. And then when Hudson made that big off-speed pitch, he just hit under it and flied to left. But having been given a reprieve, Charlie made another off-speed pitch to Marshall, and Marshall hit it into the Dodger bullpen. That's really the only noise the Dodgers have made today in the 4th inning. So Hudson pitching it dandy. 0-2. 0-2 the count to Pedro Guerrero. So 5 strikeouts, and with 2 down in the 6th inning, here's Kenny Landreau. Landreau lined out, fouled out, had trouble with Mike Schmidt's ball in the 5th inning, and it went for a double. And, of course, that turned out to be a 2-run inning and a big inning indeed. Philadelphia scored in every inning but the first. Of course, the first inning, Bob Welch was pitching. 0-1 the count. 0-2.
He's got a 4-run lead, and he smells it like a real thoroughbred, and he's coming down the stretch hard.
2-2 to Landreau. A one-hopper bang to DeJesus. High throw. He's off the bag.
He had to back up on the ball, DeJesus did, and having to do that, he knew he had to get extra on the throw and just made a high throw. Here's the throw, and Pete up, and Landreau just does beat him. Good call by Lee Wire. Here's the other angle on it. Looks like he had plenty of time, just got it high.
If you're wondering about Rose, he's 5'11". It's just that he is so stocky. He's at 203 pounds. You might not think he's that tall. All right, here's Marshall. Struck out and homered. An error charged to DeJesus. Fouled away. 1-1. You remember in the 4th inning, after Hudson got away with the off-speed pitch to Guerrero, Marshall burned him.
Remiss if we wouldn't mention it, the umpires. Usually the greatest praise they can get is silence. There hasn't been many beefs, and that comes to mind when Wire just made that call. It was a tough call, yet it was so automatic for him.
Right. 0-2. Landreau goes, and Marshall is struck out. 6 strikeouts for Charlie Hudson. No runs, no hits, an error, and a man left. And at the end of 5.5 innings, the Phillies 6 and the Dodgers 2, with Diaz, DeJesus, and Hudson coming up. Joe Beckwith will be facing a trio here in the bottom of the 6th: Bo Diaz, Ivan DeJesus, and Charlie Hudson. 6 runs, 7 hits, and 1 error for Philadelphia. 2 runs, 4 hits, and no errors for the Dodgers. There, of course, in the press release, today's starting lineup for Philadelphia. And here's Diaz. Bo has walked and grounded to third, 0 for 1. Beckwith is the 4th Dodger pitcher. Welch, Pena, Honeycutt, and Beckwith. So first a breaking ball and a low fastball, and he has to count his way 0-2. You have a feeling, however, that the momentum and that the entire situation is very much in the hands of Philadelphia. It's as if the Dodgers don't have much to say about it as Diaz strikes out. One reason, the fact that Charlie Hudson, outside of the home run by Marshall, has not been in any real trouble all day. He has struck out a half a dozen, and the Phils, meanwhile, have piled up a 4-run lead behind him. DeJesus grounded to third, single to left. He's 1 for 2. 1 out in the 6th inning, 6-2 Philadelphia. Popped in the air and angling back is Brock with Sachs behind him, and it'll be Brock. So 2 down in the 6th inning. Joe, I'll tell you after, okay?
Okay, I want to hear the whole thing.
Yeah, I'll tell it to you on the way back to the hotel.
All right.
So Charlie Hudson getting an ovation, and well-deserved, with a half a dozen strikeouts outside of that 1 pitch to Mike Marshall. He has thoroughly tied the Dodgers up. Phillies 6, Dodgers 2, bottom of the 6th inning. Ball 1.
I asked Hudson, what kind of a hitter, how would you describe yourself? He said, unpredictable.
That's as good a word as any. 1-1 for Charlie.
Because of a curveball, that's unfair.
No, I gave him Powder River, and he lifted a fly ball to Landro. Okay, they're gone in the 6th. And at the end of 6, the Phillies 6 runs, 7 hits. The Dodgers 2 runs, 4 hits. 7th inning coming up, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. It is 6-2 Philadelphia as we go to the 7th inning, and a magnificent panoramic view of the city indeed. It'll be Bill Russell followed by Jack Pimple, and then we'll see about Joe Beckwith's spot, and that's foul back, 0-1. Russell grounded out twice. He's 0 for 2. High pop fly into shallow left. Jesus out. Matthews coming. It will be Matthews. Fly ball to left, and the batter Jack Pimple. Pimple struck out and grounded to short. Jack with 1 hit in the series. Ball 1. Now Darrell Thomas will come out on deck to bat for Joe Beckwith. Bullpen, and Larry Anderson begins to heat up in the Philadelphia pen just in case. Got it. That's 7 strikeouts for Charlie Hudson. Boy, he's tearing them up.
What do you think happened to that slow curveball that he threw to Marshall?
Yeah, that's history, all right. So Charlie Hudson putting on a great show. With his 7 strikeouts, his high was 9 in July when he had a 3-hitter against Houston. So he is very much on the beam, and here is Darrell Thomas, the second Dodger pinch hitter. Remember, Landis-Stoy batted for Pena. Darrell has 2 hits in the championship series. Right. Remember, he started against Carlton.
When you watch Hudson throw like he's throwing now, that's why when he throws a lollipop like he did to Guerrero and to Marshall, Morgan comes in and talks to him and says, if you're going to get beat with this stuff.
1-1 to count. And, of course, with the lighting conditions the way they are, about 10 minutes of 6 local time in Philadelphia, the lights have not taken effect. And Hudson, as the modern-day player says, is bringing it. 2-1 to count to Darrell Thomas. The Dodgers do not have a hit since Marshall's 2-run home run in the 4th. The Hudson very much in command. The Dodgers have only had a runner on a walk and on an error since the home run. Ball 3. 3-1. Hudson has struck out 8. Boy, what a show he's putting on. And at the end of 6.5 innings, the Phillies 6 and the Dodgers 2. Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, the scene of Game 3 of the National League Championship Series. The Phillies winning the first game 1-0. The Dodgers coming back to win the second game 4-1. And Philadelphia leading today 6-2 in the 7th inning. Tonight, Game 3 of the American League Championship between Chicago and Baltimore. And they are even at 1 game apiece. And that'll start at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Interestingly enough, if there be a pattern for Paul Owens to take comfort in, the team that has scored first in all previous games, not only of this playoff series, but also the Baltimore White Sox series, the team that has scored first has won. Drive to right, Marshall coming up. He's there.
Ben, I'm sure he takes comfort in that. But I bet he takes more comfort in the fact that he's got that 4-run lead and he's got Reed and Holland in that bullpen.
And how? But it is interesting that each team in the championship series front runners, they get a lead and they hold on to it. Zachary with good numbers, 6-1. Be pitching now to Pete Rose. Rose grounded to third, single to right, and then beat one down in front of the plate, took that big high bounce to shortstop, and he had himself a single. That was the most important base hit. Mike Schmidt then hit the drive. Landreau unsure of it and played for a double. And then with 2 out in the inning, Gary Matthews singled home 2 runs, and that changed a 4-2 game to a wide open 6-2 game. 2-0. Rose followed by Schmidt. And John McSherry saying, I don't need to hear that, as he points over to the Dodger dugout.
Somebody on the Dodger bench trying to get that ball club awake, and McSherry really letting them have it.
2-0 to Rose. Remember, of course, the Dodgers no doubt felt that Derek Thomas should have walked on the 2-3-2 pitch. Then struck out. Line to center. Base hit for Rose.
I remember Rose saying in Los Angeles, he said, I'm going to be playing in these playoffs, and I'm going to show a lot of people that I can still play.
Well, he can play all right. He is 3 for 4 today after grounding out in the first inning. He has 3 consecutive hits, and here's Mike Schmidt. Fly to right, fly to center, and then hit the ball to center that went for a double in the 5th inning. When Landreau started back, then tried to come up, then tried to short hop it, and wound up kneeing the ball over into left field. In the dirt. Blocked by Pitbull. It's still behind him. I don't think exactly where it was.
No, he didn't. And I say that and kind of snicker because everybody in the ballpark knows it except you, and you keep waiting for somebody to help you. Now, he thinks he can just pick it up. He checks the runner. Now, he thought he knew where the ball was, and he says, where is it? Oh, there it is. Now, there's all these people, they see it, but you as a catcher, you don't know where it is.
You would think Zachary would come down and try to help him out.
Somebody, the bench there on the umpire, help your catcher.
1-0 the count. Ball 2.
You know, Ben, I don't have to tell you, and I'm sure same way with that Pete Rose. I'm a big fan of his. He would help a ball club. He just showed up for the team picture.
That's right. Yeah, he wouldn't allow any dozing. Pete 3 for 4 today. Check it first. No swing, says Lee Wire. 3-0 the count of Mike Schmidt. Ball 4. So with 1 out, a single to Rose, a walk to Mike Schmidt, and the batter will be Sixto Lezcano.
He's got 1 man out looking for the ground ball, and one of Zachary's best pitches is that little overhand curveball that he drops right on the outside corner looking for the ground ball.
Remember, Lezcano came in to hit for LeFay in the 5th inning and struck out against Beckwith.
And there it was.
He missed ball 1.
And Zachary is saying something to McSherry, and McSherry's had it.
That was a strike, he muttered from under his mustache. It's been Welch, Pena, Honeycutt, Beckwith, and Zachary. 2-0. Down in the Dodger bullpen, Oral Hershiser begins to loosen up. There he is. Remember, he was the youngster who caught the home run by Marshall when the Dodgers were in the game. Right. 2-1. 3-2, 1 out in the bottom of the 7th. Philadelphia 6, Dodgers 2. The runners do not go, and the ball is lifted to shallow left. Coming up for it is Baker. So the runners hold. So Lescano, a fly ball to left. We pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC Television Network.
Omaha, Channel 3, KMTV.
Tommy Lasorda listening and looking at this crowd and the ovation for Gary Matthews. Matthews walked, homered, singled, knocked in 3 runs, hitting .400 in the series, fouled away. He is 4 for 10 with 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, and for good measure has a walk and a stolen base. Ground ball to the hole. He's got another base hit. Here comes Rose. Here's Baker's throw to the plate. He scored. Holding at second is Mike Schmidt.
The base hit, and you see Matthews take his cap off, and they really had to get it out of the way before Baker made this throw. It looked like there might be a play, but the short hop really took Fimple out of the play. Pete digging hard. Looks like the throw's going to beat him, but the short hop, Fimple had to make sure he caught the ball. It was not a good throw.
It's one of those times, too, I think if Rose had slid, they might have gotten it. But he was able to avoid that short hop tag by Fimple. 7-2 Philadelphia. 4 RBIs for Gary Matthews. He has 2 singles, a walk, a home run, and he's 5 for 11 in the series. Greg Gross hits a drive to Landreau, and that will be that. But as we consider the choice for most valuable player, standing very high on the list has to be the left fielder, Gary Matthews. 1 run, 2 hits, 2 left. And at the end of 7, Phillies 7, Dodgers 2.
Gary Matthews, this was a little bit earlier. They made him come out.
So Gary taking the curtain call, this crowd chanting, beat L.A., beat L.A., and you can understand why. The Dodgers and the Phils met in the divisional playoffs in 1977 and in 1978. Each time the Dodgers beat the Phils 3-1, thoroughly frustrating the Philadelphia effort. So now Philadelphia leading 7-2 in this pivotal 3rd game. There's ball 1 to Sachs. Ground ball to short. DeJesus. 1 away. DeJesus handling Sachs' ball, and the batter is Greg Brock. Brock fouled out in the 1st inning. Good play by Mike Schmidt. Lined out to right, and with Sachs at 2nd and 2 out in the 5th inning, struck out. Brock is still looking for his 1st hit in the series. He is 0 for 8. You wonder, will Lasorda continue with his hunch? He has just kept saying day after day when they were considering Monday, I've got a hunch about this kid that he's going to do something. But he's running out of time as well as hunches.
He's trying to make a ball player. It may cost him a couple games.
2-1.
I think it was Steve Boros who said it best. He said sometimes good strategy is bad psychology. And this may be the case. He's trying to make a player, and he's staying with him,
2-1 to Greg Brock. Foul ball right by Manny Mota. 2-2. Hudson struck out 9 against Houston on the 20th of July.
And he makes a good pitch here. You can see why he gets him. Ties him up inside with the breaking ball. Even if he had hit it, even with the swing that he had, he would not have been able to drive that ball.
So a magnificent performance by 24-year-old Charles Hudson out of Ennis, Texas. High pop fly, and it will be Schmidt. And Charles Hudson has now retired 7 in a row. The Dodgers have not had a hit since the 4th inning. And at the end of 7 1/2, the Phils 7 and the Dodgers 2. Bottom of the 8th inning, the Phillies 7 runs, 9 hits. The Dodgers 2 runs, 4 hits. And Bo Diaz at bounce at a third. Backhanded by Guerrero, who gets him. 1 away. 1 down. Good play by Guerrero, and DeJesus coming up. Again, as we work our way to the final outs, and when the Dodgers come up in the 9th inning, they'll have Guerrero, Landro, and Marshall. They'll have a selection, in our estimation, of the most valuable player in the game. I think you might agree with us as the story has unfolded. Pat Zachary, the 5th Dodger pitcher, trying to get DeJesus, who grounded to third, singled, and fouled out. And hits it to right, but Marshall is there. 2 down. And Charles Hudson will be getting an ovation. And here he comes. 9 strikeouts. He's retired 7 in a row, and he gets a standing ovation. Message board, they flashed our secret weapon. Boy, it's no secret now. He struck out twice and flied to center. Each time he's had 2 strikes, but in the 6th inning against Beckwith, he had a fly ball to center. One and 2. 2 out, 8th inning. Phil 7, Dodgers 2. Guerrero, Landro, Marshall due up in the 9th. And who's going to pitch for the Dodgers tomorrow? Chances are Jerry Royce. That's all for Charles Hudson, but he can do no wrong. The Phillies out in order in the 8th, and at the end of 8, the Phillies 7 runs, 9 hits. The Dodgers 2 runs, 4 hits. Guerrero, Landro, and Marshall with their feet in the door. To Charles Hudson, 24 years old, out of Ennis, Texas. Look at those numbers, Joe.
78 strikes, only 30 balls, and I think the story, in addition to that, is the last base hit the Dodgers had was on that slow curveball he threw to Marshall. Since then, he has struck out 6, and he has just been rearing back, throwing strikes, and getting the job done.
So Hudson will be pitching to Pedro Guerrero, followed by Kenny Landro and Mike Marshall. And the Phillies 3 outs away from going 2-1 up against the Dodgers. Al Holland and Willie Hernandez in the Philadelphia bullpen. Boy, he really had an up and down year. 2 and 3 in 10 starts, then 5 straight wins, then 1 and 5 in his last 11 starts. Put it all together, he wound up 8 and 8. 1 and 2. Fouled away. Charles Hudson has pitched a great game. But, Joe, it's time for MVP selection.
Well, I think what helped him considerably in pitching that great game was Gary Matthews' home run that made it 4-2 in his inning. My vote's for Matthews.
Okay. Beat L.A. is the champ. Ground ball to third. Mike Schmidt over to Pedro. 1 down. So where it looked like Charles Hudson might crack when it got to 3-2 in the 4th inning, it was Gary Matthews who literally picked him up, the team up, and the city of Philadelphia. And so today's NBC Miller Highlight Player of the Game is no longer in the game. It's Gary Matthews. And Miller High Life is happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Gary Matthews to the Special Olympics. Strikes to count to Kenny Landreau. Lined out to center, fouled out, and was aboard on an error. Hit it on the hands and popped it in the air to Rose. That's 9 in a row retired by Charles Hudson.
There was no way that Pete Rose would not make this play. He knew exactly where he was. He kind of stumbles here, but he's got that ball in his glove.
This crowd is going wild now as Mike Marshall gets in. 9 straight retired by Charles Hudson. Has not allowed a hit since the 4th inning, and he has struck out 9. Ball 1. White Sox in Baltimore tonight at 8. Fouled away. 1-1. Tomorrow night here at Veterans Stadium, the Dodgers trying to stay alive, and Philadelphia trying to go to the World Series. The chant of the crowd, that dour look on the face of Lasorda would tell it all. To delay the moment, and Bill Russell will be the batter. The Dodger base runners since Marshall homered in the 4th have been Sachs, who walked in the 5th, Landreau aboard on an error in the 6th, and the 2-out walk to Marshall in the 9th. And that sums up the feeling here. They are indeed psyched. For Jack Pimple, if there be an at-bat left. One and one.
There's your home field advantage, what you're listening to.
Yeah, what the Dodgers call the 10th man. High fly ball to left field. Gross is there. That's it. Stand there and blow bubbles, because the day belongs to Charles Hudson and to the Philadelphia Phillies, who defeated the Dodgers 7-2. We'll be back right after this.